So, staff members at Planned Parenthood's national Washington D.C. office say that they have unionized and reached an agreement to improve workers' rights. CBS News has learned exclusively. The move comes as Planned Parenthood and other abortion rights groups have come under scrutiny for workplace issues, including a lack of diversity within management. Planned Parenthood's D.C. staffers are the organization's second federal office to reach a collective bargaining agreement after the group's federal Miami bureau unionized 2 years ago. Let us bring in CBS News reporter Kate Smith. She's been following the story for us and give us a sense of the significance. Tell us more about these allegations of workplace issues that Planned Parenthood and other abortion rights groups have been facing, they've been under scrutiny for, that ultimately led employees to feel that they really needed to unionize.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. So kind of as the country has been, going under a racial reckoning this summer, a lot of these abortion rights groups that we so often talk about, like Planned Parenthood and NARAL, they've also come under scrutiny. And kind of the recurring theme of what you hear is that these were organizations, progressive organizations that were built by straight white women for straight white women. And what you see on the inside of these organizations really reflects that. You see that there are a lot of people in entry-level positions, and those ranks are very diverse. But as you go up the ranks, you find fewer and fewer people of color. You find the pay is, there's a lot less pay equity going on in those upper ranks. And as you get to the very senior management positions like board seats, the ones that are particularly influential, you see the fewest number of women of color and people of color. And so, Planned Parenthood certainly has not been immune to those accusations, even though they, of course, are led by a black woman, Alexis McGill Johnson. But it's important to note that these union arguments have been going on long before these accusations have come to light, but perhaps are addressing something that has been going on in the organization long before we in the media really were aware of it.
So what has Planned Parenthood had to say about the allegations of its workplace environment and about unionizing?
So the first question, Vlad, Planned Parenthood has been very supportive of its employees unionizing. And I should note that that is very similar to a lot of other progressive organizations that have turned to collective bargaining for their workers' rights organizations. Like we mentioned, NARAL, they have actually unionized in the past. Bernie Sanders' campaign has unionized. Hillary Clinton's campaign unionized. So this is kind of a trend that we're seeing among progressive organizations and their workers, taking back some of that power and taking back some of those rights. And the management at Planned Parenthood has been supportive of those efforts, both when they started back with Cecile Richards and then right up until today with their new management under Alexis McGill Johnson. And I should also mention that as these accusations have come to light about, hostile work environments, pay equity, their management has been very aggressive in saying that they do not support these. They do not support that kind of workplace. They want to fix things and make them right. And, there was a particularly powerful comment from Alexis McGill Johnson, their CEO, saying, as a black woman, she hears these things, she sees them, and she's been part of them before. So, it's really important to note that as they're going through this, you have someone at the very, very top who is experienced this, lived this, and is very supportive of these efforts to unionize and to fix things within the organization.
There are a lot of organizations and businesses with unions that still have issues with diversity and equality. How does this agreement plan to address these workplace issues?
So I looked over their contract. It's about 30 pages, and many of it is like boilerplate union agreements, right? There's, the idea of making sure we're hiring more people, looking at more people of color, making sure when the HR representatives offer those resumes to hiring managers, you're including more people of color. But when I spoke to union leadership, the thing that kept coming up was that they're going to have a voice at the table. Now, what that means, Anne-Marie, is that when these accusations come about next time, if there is a next time, the idea is that these employees will be able to have a voice and say, we agree that these things are a problem. Or providing that vehicle when they see things that are going on that are not right on the ground, that they have a vehicle to flag those issues. Now, when I was speaking to people before, is that when these these problems arose in the past, there weren't those pathways in order to be able to flag these racial issues on the ground as they were happening without fear of retaliation. So the idea is that in addition to all of those very boilerplate union agreements that you see among very many progressive organizations, in this one in particular, it's trying to give more of a voice to the employees, kind of, if you see something, say something, new culture moving forward.
This decision comes after nearly 4 years of negotiations, so I guess what took so long?
That's a great question, Vlad. And what took so long is essentially the Trump presidency. Planned Parenthood has been playing defense for nearly 4 years and since that 2016 election. Now, we've talked about this so much. There are so many things that have happened in the reproductive health area. You have 2 new Supreme Court justices that are not supportive of Roe v. Wade. You've seen a record number of abortion bans, restrictions, regulations. And you've also just seen sentiment. Abortion rights are in the news constantly because of all of these new laws. So Planned Parenthood has just been really just playing defense for the past 3.5 years, trying to fight against all of these things that they've been up against in a Trump presidency. And as Trump says many times in the campaign trail, he considers him the most, quote, pro-life president in history. And Planned Parenthood has certainly felt that. So when I was speaking to union leadership, the way they described it was that there's only 24 hours in the day, and while management was supportive, while they did want to help, and apparently Cecile Richards, their former president, was very supportive, there are only 24 hours in a day, and when you're dealing with an unprecedented number of regulations, restrictions, bans, the focus on the union did kind of fall on the back burner a little bit.
Interesting reporting. Kate, as always, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.